Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Mondays Down South. It's been a minute. It's been quite a while, actually. It's been, a couple months since we've talked. A lot of stuff has happened non-NFL, but more than anything, I'm just happy to be back with the boys. I feel like today we're going to bring you guys a new little fun starting segment that we're going to do, and I'm about to intro it in just a second after the boys say what's up. But ideally, this is great. You guys enjoy it, and we keep it going for future segments, and and have fun with this. So before we get into that, Zach, Evan, say what's up. It's been a while. What's up, guys?
Yo, nothing much. Just getting back into the swing of things, getting into some rec soccer, as like they call it, intramural soccer. Someone was recently asking me, was I a college athlete? I said yes, and then they inquired more, and I said I was an intramural basketball and football player. So I'm not sure if that did anything justice, but regardless, I'm glad to be back, enjoying the summer. Hope you guys had a good 4th. Ev, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, good to be back on the pod. Not too much to report. You know, it's the quiet sports period, so I'm getting my fix with Wimbledon has been fun, and maybe a little WNBA even in here. We're at that period of the year, and obviously baseball. But no, good to be back on the podcast. Good to see you, gentlemen. Looking forward to it.
I love it. I think it'll be a miscellaneous kind of podcast because we have a lot of different sports with a lot of different things going on. So it'll be fun to kind of, have a little bit of a spontaneous conversation, if you will. But before we do that, we're going to start with our new segment presented by Seams Media, Mondays Down South. It is going to be, and this is based off a popular meme, if you will, or reel or TikTok or whatever you use these days, where people joke about how us as men sit down and we'll just be naming random sports players to each other instead of having like real conversation compared to maybe people of other, whether it's women or whatever it is. It's not gender specific, but it's more the meme that goes around. So with that,
careful, Sai, careful.
With that being said, I might need you to cut that out. With that being said, we're gonna get into a new segment. I like the laughs, and the segment is gonna be how many names can we as MDS name of players in different sports based off specific categories. And initially, I think the joke was people were just naming as many players as they could for as long as they could. But we're not going to keep you guys here for like a year because I'm pretty sure that's how long we'd go if you let the three of us go. So we're going to start doing categories. And for the first one ever, we figured the best thing to start with is NFL because, that's the majority of content you guys get from us is NFL. And in order to make it a bit more difficult for us, we're not just going to name NFL players that we know. We're going to name an NFL player. And for example, we're going to say their first name and their last name. So I'm going to say Shannon Sharp. And Zach is going to go second. And he's going to say another player whose name starts with the first letter of the last name of the player I stated. So if I said Shannon Sharp, Zach would go next. And he'd say, I don't know, maybe Sterling Shepard. And as we keep going, we're going to use different names. And the last name, first letter, is going to keep mirroring. And of course, I started with two who were SS and SS. So that wasn't the greatest example, but you'll get the drift of it. And here's what we're going to do for fun. We're going to set a timer for 4 minutes. And we're going to see how many names we can get in that 4-minute period. And every week, as we introduce new categories and try new ones, we're going to keep counting the score out so you guys know. So when I say mine, I'm going to say 1. When Zach says this, he's going to say 2. Evan's going to say 3. And we're just going to keep going and see how many we get in 4 minutes. No pressure, guys. First one ever. No judgment.
Man, what's the allowable hesitation threshold? Like 3 seconds?
We gotta go. Like, if it takes you 30 seconds to name a player, we're waiting all 30 seconds. That's part of the challenge. So,
gotcha.
And bonus points for the uniqueness and the the funny factor. Give us your most random players you can think of. Within a reasonable amount of time. I feel like that's the way to do it.
Thought of in like a decade, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I forgot about it. Like, let's have fun with it.
That's the goal.
And we'll see how it goes the first time. And the goal is to keep doing better as we go. I feel like, in a couple months, we're going to be experts at this. So let's have fun with this. Gentlemen, y'all let me know when you're ready. I'm going to start this timer, and then I'm going to let you guys kind of, go from there.
I was going to say, and let us know in the comments, let us know like categories you want us to do. Let us know like which names we listed that resonated with you. Let us know other names you would have given, some random ones out there. Let us have it in the comments. So it's a fun little interactive with the community as well.
I think that is one of the best parts about this. So I'm really looking forward to this. So to be clear, I'm going to name a player, and I'm going to say one before I name a player. Zach, you count the number that we're at, and then say the next player. I think we got this. First time ever, so no pressure. Let's have fun with this, boys. Y'all ready?
All right, here we go.
Okay, timer, 4 minutes starts now. Sterling Shepard.
Sam Darnold, or 2 Sam Darnold.
Dietrich Wise.
Oh, wow. Okay. We're going to go 4. Let's go with, I want to name a Colts player. Oh, shit. You got me with W. I'm stressing over here. Wan'Dale Robinson.
Okay. 5. Let's see here. 5. N. Robinson. R. Rich Gannon.
Oh, I love that.
6. Gary Clark. Go Dukes.
Okay. 7. Cooper DeJean.
8. Donovan McNabb.
There we go.
9. That's too generic. Mike Hilton.
Okay. You said that was 9, right? So 10. Think of something a little creative if I can. Okay. Now I just got to think of someone. Harrison Smith.
Okay. 11. Sebastian Janikowski.
Love that kicker, baby.
12. Jamarcus Russell.
Okay. 13. Reggie Wayne.
14. Willie Parker.
I like the Willie.
15. Patrick Ramsey.
Oh, okay. 16. Reggie White.
17. Walter Payton.
Oh, I like that.
18. You got me on P again. Phil Simms.
Oh, okay. That was 18?
18, yeah.
Okay. 19. Sterling Shepard.
Did you just do a repeat?
I said Shannon Sharp.
Oh.
Sterling Shepard, okay. 20. Let's see. I'm always doing the S's. Let's see. 20. Let's see here. Gosh. An S.
Good,
20. Shams. No, I'm just kidding. 20. Sam Jenkins.
There you go.
21. Jay. John Elway.
There we go. Okay, so that was 20 or 21?
21.
22. Let's go. Earl Jenkins.
Okay, Earl Jenkins. 23. Is it really 23?
Mm-hmm.
23.
10-second warning.
Come on. Give me
James.
You got this.
Oh, James Laurinaitis.
There we go.
Oh, L. 24. Oh, do I have to stop? Damn. All right, I'm going to come up with one.
What was your 24?
I don't know. I need an L.
Yeah.
Liddell Betts.
Oh,
the
that's a
legend.
good one. We'll count that. That's 25.
So
That was 24.
for the first time, we got the juices flowing. It's not easy, and it's funny, right? Because this is what I ran into the first time I did it. You start forgetting players that you definitively know, right? Like when W came up, like Walter Payton was something I thought of earlier today, and I couldn't think of it right now. Or for example, when S came up, I know Zach would have thought of Saquon Barkley if we were just talking about the regular NFL, things like that. So that's what makes this such a fun exercise. We hit 23 our first time, which is a pretty iconic number, at least in the basketball world. So I'm pretty happy about that. I get the feeling this is going to get better and better every time we go, but that was fun, guys. Nice segment, yo.
Good stuff.
I got to admit that I think we got to dock one of them. I do think we got 24. So maybe we do sit at 23 because I made up one of the names. Sam Jenkins.
I was going to say, I was like, who did Zach just go with?
I didn't know the question.
I'm Googling it. There's got to be a Sam Jenkins that played it.
There's got to be, man. There's got to be.
Fans have to fact check us as we go. I think.
Dude, I just threw that one to the wild, and you guys both just accepted it without any persistence.
I was worried about the timer.
I got no NFL, but I do have a Sam Jenkins, an offensive lineman for Alabama State University.
There we go. That's the guy I was referencing. Yep, that was the guy.
Can we tag Sam Jenkins in this podcast?
I think our fans are going to need to fetch check us going forward to make sure we're not just making it, which I love. It'll be fun. I look forward to someone in our comments calling you out in the 4 minutes it's happening.
Dude, I'm gonna try hard, low key, to get Sam Jenkins on the
We
podcast.
should. He would love it, bro. He would love it.
What a way to manufacture a college player for us. I love it.
Hopefully he has a good season.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
All right. Love it. Cy, thanks for queuing up that little game show. Looking forward to next week now. Looking forward to next week, what we cook up for a categories perspective. But where do we want to start? I guess I don't even know where we left off, kind of in the NBA finals period. So obviously the Oklahoma City Thunder are your NBA champions. Went way longer than any of us expected. Tyrese Halliburton playing through a really bad injury and unfortunately blows out that Achilles. They just announced today that he is indeed out for next season. No surprise there, but they confirmed it. So certainly that series went way further and way closer than I expected. Shout out to the Pacers. They played great. I don't know if you guys have any takes on the finals, just to close that loop.
I think Evan and I were dead wrong. The last time we recorded, we both were telling Zach, because he was traveling and he was on his honeymoon, so he didn't get to watch a lot of the prior series. And we both told Zach, hey, there's no way this series is going beyond 5, maybe 6 at best. And 6 is us purely just rooting for the Pacers to win. And that's how I felt going into the series, and I was so wrong. The Pacers, I feel like throughout the entire season, throughout the playoffs, and through the finals have been disrespected in a way by not being able to get the credit they deserve for the run they went on. And I honestly think, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, I honestly think if Tyrese doesn't get hurt in that first quarter, I feel like the momentum was going their way. I mean, Tyrese looked like he was about to have a legacy game. The guy had almost, it was, what was it, 8 minutes? He had 9 points or something like that. He came out there aggressive. He knew that in order for them to win on the road for a Game 7, he needed to set the tone. And I think he had more of a veteran presence than maybe and maybe it would have made it difficult for the OKC guys, because if you look at the final score, the Thunder did not score a lot of points. The issue was there was a massive amounts of time where the Pacers could not get anything going on offense because the Thunder were taking away Pascal Siakam, and they were forcing guys like TJ McConnell and them to make big runs, which, to McConnell's credit, he had quite the little 5-minute period there, but it just was too much for him on that end. But I honestly think that this game could have come down to Tyrese hitting a game winner. That's the kind of energy it had. So it was just so sad to watch a guy who maybe gets one shot in his career. Most guys don't even make the NBA finals when you make the NBA, but for him to make it, have all those iconic moments, and then blow out his Achilles in the first quarter of Game 7 was so sad to see. It had my gut wrenching, but all I can hope is that he recovers fully and we get to see Tyrese back there. And honestly, I look forward to when he does, because I believe in him, and I think that team's got some juice left in him. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, just segueing off of Sai's point, I think that you could argue that that's the biggest, most significant NBA Finals injury of all time, and it came at the most dire Game 7 game. When Kevin Durant tore his Achilles, I know it was in the playoffs, but was it in the finals? I don't think it was in the finals. I think it was the West Coast finals.
I think it was
the West Coast. Yeah.
I think it was either a series prior or the 2 series prior. Because I know going into their Western Conference Finals, they were pretty banged up already, and I think he either tore it at the beginning of that or going into that one, and then Clay also got hurt. This is when they ended up losing to Toronto in the finals, and they were out both Durant, and then Clay wasn't quite fully healthy.
Yeah, but Halliburton made such a major impact in that finals series. So obviously, I think that they actually could have made the Game 7 win with a Halliburton like last minute shot, like Cy mentioned, like just for the sprinkles, like they're the cherry on top. I mean, he had done that in Game 1. I mean, he was all over them the entire series, and it went way later than anybody thought. But yeah, I would agree. Ev, what about you?
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I mean, to Cy's point, I don't think they would have won that game, even if he was, played the whole game. But if he was fully healthy from the start of that series, you got to think they probably win that series because for many of those games, he wasn't too impactful. Like he wasn't his normal self. You could definitely tell he was fighting through that injury. So I don't know. It could have been a different series if he was fully healthy. But then again, not a lot of guys are at this point in the season. But yeah, looking forward. I mean, obviously next year's going to be tough without him. But now they've traded Miles Turner, so that's or let him walk. So
yeah.
It's going to be interesting, but good for OKC though. They deserved it.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be competing next year in terms of Pacers, but the hope is if he can get back fully healthy, they'll reload for the year after because Pascal's a stud and they can definitely build around him, and they have one of the best coaches in the NBA. But yeah, I do think we should just take a second to acknowledge how impressive it was that OKC, being as young as they are, with the way Sam Presti built them, the fact that we just watched an NBA Finals where 2 small market teams were competing for a championship and put on an absolute show of a series was so impressive. And shout out to the Thunder. Like the way they built their roster is going to make them perennial threats for the next decade. SGA looked amazing, played like an MVP. Jalen Williams, need to tip the cap to him, he took that step he needed to take for them to go win a finals this year. And he played great throughout the entire playoffs, especially given, like, I'm not trying to throw shade, but Chet Holmgren was not anywhere near as good as he should have been, in my opinion, throughout the entire playoffs. He was getting bullied by some of these guys. Like, he needs to take a step forward. But the fact that he wasn't even that good and they still won pretty convincingly, at least in the games that they did win, is so impressive. So the Thunder are a threat for a long time, and it's impressive.
Yeah, I think Chet will be a completely different animal next year because, like, with that injury, he just never got into the groove this year in general. And he didn't really like completely seem like himself the entire regular season when he came back from the injury, and I think that carried over to the playoffs. So I think he's going to be a completely different animal for them next year. And the key is going to be their role players are going to have to be guys they draft now, which obviously they've drafted insanely well. So you think they're in a good position to do that, but you're not going to be able to afford to pay expensive role players like they were getting Hartenstein and Caruso and those guys anymore once you have to start paying your young players. So that's going to be the key to them moving forward.
And that's why I think they're built for the next 10 years, because the moment Lou Dort leaves or Alex Caruso leaves, they have Case and Wallace sitting on the bench waiting to play. They have 5 guys on their bench that could be playing significant minutes on other teams because they drafted them. And they still have 8 to 10 first-round picks left.
They got 1 million picks left. Yeah.
It's insane. Like, Presti has set the model. And, Evan, this might lead to a little bit of a hot take you just made in our group message, if you want to segue into that. What do you want to tell our DC locals?
It wasn't a specific take or a prediction, but, I mean, the Wizards GM came from Oklahoma City, and he's building it the exact same way. So if you're in the DC area, this is the time to get in on the Wizards bandwagon and start to believe in something that you haven't had the chance. If you're our age and you're pretty much your entire lifetime, obviously we'll shout at the John Wall, Bradley Beal team that one year where they thought they would have beat LeBron. But, I digress, and we won't get into that topic. But, I mean, they now have 9 first-round picks from the last 3 drafts. And you look at last year, obviously, it was knocked for not being a great draft, but one of those was a first-team all-rookie, and then one was a second-team all-rookie with Sarr and Bub Carrington. They just acquired Cam Whitmore for 2 seconds, and they still have, we'll see. They could be a play-in team next year. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you because they have some decent veterans as well, but you probably are getting another lottery pick next year. So there's 10 first-round picks. And then you have $100 million in cap space because all of these contracts are now expiring because they got off the Jordan Poole contract. So they're going to have essentially 10 first-round draft picks from the last 4 drafts. A lot of them look really good. Some of them are lottery lottery dart throws. Like obviously Cam Whitmore didn't get much of an opportunity in the Rockets, but super talented kid. And then you add that cap space in, man. They need a little more star power, but when you have 100 million cap space, you can build out. A lot of the guys they have right now are more, probably projected as more role players. But don't sleep on Bub Carrington being a star too. That dude's a stud.
Zach, I want your take on this before I say anything.
Yeah, it sounds like a leap of faith, like a little bit of wizardry to make this thing work, no pun intended. But Ev, like, who's a big star that you would want the Wizards to sign that they could realistically sign, knowing that the NBA has to exhaust 85% of their cap every year? So they got to pay for somebody. Who do you think, is it a veteran that they bring in with all these young guns, or who do you think they'll pay for?
Yeah, I don't know who's available next offseason. Right now, their cap and roster space is full because they've taken on Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart, Kelly Olynyk, guys like that. So those are your veterans, but obviously those were just trades to accumulate assets and get expiring contracts on the books, and CJ McCollum now. So I don't know who's available next offseason, but they're going to be at the top of the list from a cap space perspective. I think that they'll probably need someone that can really carry the scoring load, because they did get Trey Johnson, which I think was a perfect fit based on their other players. But again, they have more role players right now and not a ton of scoring punch. Trey Johnson should help if he hits his ceiling, but I think they're probably going to need a pretty ball dominant scorer, when they hit the free agency market. But yeah, I don't know who's out there, but they're going to have the pieces to put around them. It's just a matter of how they want to build it.
Yeah, this opens up a broader conversation, which is why I'm glad you said it, Evan. It's because we just watched what the Thunder did. And I think what's funny is DC isn't even a small market team. The issue is, since John Wall and Bradley Beal, with how terrible the front office was, they couldn't get anyone to come sign with them, even though they are one of the bigger markets. Maybe not the biggest, but one of the bigger ones. So, but putting that aside, I love that they are taking that approach. But my one question is, I get the feeling a lot of teams are going to try to mimic that. But the thing that I think OKC did that a lot of these other teams may not be able to do is, when they gave up Paul George, they traded for SGA from the Clippers when SGA was like rising. And you could see his potential to be great, but he wasn't quite, an all-star, superstar level player yet. And they were able to acquire him. And the foundation of any championship team is especially in the modern NBA, right? It's no longer the league where you get three superstars together and try to win with them. It's to get a 1A, a 1B, and then build insane amounts of depth around them. And then you build championship teams nowadays. And that's what I think a lot of teams are going to try to mirror that model. But I think the issue is going to be a lot of people aren't going to be able to get an SGA. That is, he just won an MVP. He's a top 5-ish player in the NBA right now. That is very hard to acquire. Like, we go years and years and years. It's why people gave the Mavs so much crap for trading away Luka Doncic, because these are generational players, right? Like, SGA is going to go down as one of the greatest mid-range shooters of all time, and he's only played a couple of years. So that's the issue that I see with that strategy. But if the guy came from OKC coaching tree and they do a really good job of building that foundation, maybe they finally do attract a star to say, hey, like when they hit free agency, to say, hey, let me come and play for the Wizards. My main thing, though, is I would hope that they get someone young. And it's so sad that they didn't have this kind of front office when KD was testing free agency, because that man would have come in a heartbeat.
No, he didn't want to come because he was really perturbed by the putting Durant on the jerseys when he wasn't on the team. It really bothered him. So he didn't want to come. Maybe he'll change his mind this time, but
that would upset me too. But I think one of the main reasons he didn't want to come is because he knew he didn't have a shot in anything to win anything at the time when he was available.
Wall Bill KD. Yeah,
but Wall was hurt. Beal then got hurt. I don't know. It was plus you got to pay Otto Porter a max contract. Yeah. Let's not forget about one of the worst contracts in the history of the NBA that we don't talk about. Anyway, but long story short, I do love it, and I'm looking forward to it. And it was pretty genius how they got off the Kuzma contract. The Bucks did you guys a huge favor by basically giving up Middleton for Kuzma. You got off his and getting off the Poole contract. I always said they needed to do that to move forward, and I'm glad they did. So happy for y'all. With that being said, a little bit more free agency. I got a couple teams. I don't know if you guys have paid a ton of attention to NBA free agency, but it has been fun to watch. We'll start with the Houston Rockets, who made a trade. Jalen Green, their number 10 overall pick, and Dylan Brooks for Kevin Durant, which Durant might be older, but the guy is averaging still over 25 points a game while shooting 50, 40, 90 from the field. The guy is an automatic bucket getter no matter how old he gets. And you add him to a team that was a 2 seed last year and took the Warriors 7 games. And the only reason they didn't win that series is they didn't have anyone they could rely on in the last like couple minutes of a game to get them a bucket. And now you have arguably the best offensive scorer in the history of the NBA adding to that team. And then if that wasn't enough, they added Dorian Finney-Smith, who is a lockdown defender that they got off the Lakers, which is like they basically replaced Dylan Brooks with a better version of him and a less like chaotic version of him. And then they've also signed Clint Capella to help their back, like their front court, which already has Sengun and Steven Adams, who they extended. And you pair that with Jalen or Amen Thompson, who was one of the best rookies in a long time. So what do you guys think of the Rockets with a starting five of Fred VanVleet, Amen Thompson, Sengun, Kevin Durant, and then whatever you want to do, whether you go small with Jabari Smith or you add Clint Capella or of course, Steven Adams. What do you guys think of their potential next year? Do you think they can beat the Thunder? Do you think they can win a championship?
I'm impressed with how Houston has also changed around their like franchise, because 3 years ago, right? Like, so in the finals this year, the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder had 20 wins, 40 between the two of them, but they went like 20-60 in 2022. The Houston Rockets were one of the worst teams during that period of time. So hats off to them for turning it around. But to answer your question, Cy, I don't buy that roster. I see an aging roster with Fred VanVleet, with Kevin Durant coming into town, and they traded away Jalen Green. Man, Jalen Green was a stud for them. So I'm actually not on the Houston Rockets bandwagon. They're obviously still a playoff team, but I think this hunt to find Kevin Durant and magically take them to the playoff or magically take them to the finals and beyond is a little bit overstated at this point.
I like that take, Zach. I don't know if I agree with it. I probably disagree with it because the problem with Jalen Green was probably one of the most disappointing players in the NBA last year. I would have to think he's just so inefficient, and like you see the talent just oozing, but like he's disgustingly inefficient. And maybe part of that was because like Cy said, they didn't really have a go-to scorer, and he was kind of the guy that has that capability and maybe tried to force it, and maybe he's just not going to be that. So it's. Obviously he's a good player, but it's almost a addition by subtraction in the sense of the efficiency standpoint. And you sub in one of the most, complete opposite, just most efficient scorers in, NBA history almost with Durant. I do see your point of it is kind of aging, not a big Van Vliet fan. And then when has adding Durant ever worked other than the Warriors, who already had a championship team in place?
He's a problem to play with, man. He doesn't care. Like, he doesn't put a lot of effort in. I mean, you saw that in Phoenix last year. And the year before.
But I like the roster, man. I think this is a team that can push the Thunder for sure. It's my
Zach just got me so fired up. All right, here we go. First and foremost, I fully disagree about the Jalen Green point. I mean this with no disrespect, and I'm glad Zach did this because I needed something to get me juiced up for this podcast in the NBA.
That's what I'm here for.
I'm not trying to disrespect Jalen Green, but even if they didn't trade him for Durant, they needed to move on from him and send him somewhere else, because the issue is he was destroying their offense. He was incredibly inconsistent. The problem is when he's great, he's amazing for the offense because he's doing exactly what they need, which is scoring with consistency. But they have everything else they need. Sengun is – people keep saying baby Jokic. I think that's a little bit unfair to Jokic because Jokic is one of the best players of the modern generation. But Sengun is amazing. He can run an offense from the center position, which is so incredibly amazing in modern basketball, and he's so smart and so efficient. Amen Thompson is going to be one of the best defensive players in the NBA. He already is, and he's got the ability to get a bucket. They were a 2 seed last year with Fred VanVleet running the point guard. And I understand that the contract he had gotten prior was way too much for him, but Fred VanVleet is an NBA champion, and you were not watching the Toronto Raptors if you don't think he contributed to Kawhi Leonard and the rest of that team. He was arguably the second best player on that team, third best after Pascal Siakam, to help them win because he's extremely smart in big moments. He's been coached by some of the best, and he's played for championship teams. The thing that they needed more than anything was they were a 2 seed with an extremely young roster with basically just VanVleet and Steven Adams as their veterans playing. The number one thing they needed was a guy who could get them the bucket when they needed it. And you can say what you want about KD as a leader. I will give you that. If you say he's not great at leading people, like he doesn't take on that position, I will 100% give you that. If you tell me it's because he doesn't care, I will completely disagree with you. Nobody cares about basketball more than that man. He shows up and he balls out no matter what the circumstances. And sure, Phoenix didn't work out. That was a terrible situation. And the problem was they decided to just go Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and who was a Kevin Durant with no depth around him and no point guard and no defense. So yes, it was a disaster. But if you're going to tell me Brooklyn was Kevin Durant's fault, I am going to disagree with you with everything that I have. Kyrie Irving is my favorite player, and Kyrie was a problem. James Harden was a problem. You know, the only guy out of the three of them who showed up every single day, went healthy, and said, hey, I'm going to ball no matter what these guys are up to, it was Kevin Durant. And almost to the point where he beat that Bucks team with Giannis Antetokounmpo, where his shoe size was like an inch too far, or else they would have taken out the eventual NBA champions, who went on to beat the Suns, by the way, for a championship. And the other thing I'm going to say about Kevin Durant is he's one of the most clutch players in the NBA history in the playoffs. And if Kyrie Irving doesn't get hurt in that Bucks series, I'm pretty sure everyone and their mothers would have picked the Nets to win that championship. The Nets was not Kevin Durant's fault. He was amazing on the Warriors, and he got stuck with Russell Westbrook taking inefficient shots his time in OKC for him not to win. I'm not trying to make excuses and say Durant is as much of a winner as maybe as some of his contemporaries, like, of course, LeBron or Steph or whatever it is. But I will completely disagree saying that Kevin Durant is not a winner when put in situations where people aren't like completely folding around him, because that is not on him. But I appreciate that. You let me go on a Durant tangent that I've been wanting to go on for a while.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But team looks pretty good on paper.
And then before I know we got other sports to talk about too, but one last thing I want to point out to you guys. Have you guys been paying attention to what the Denver Nuggets have been doing this offseason?
I saw the this whole Valanciunas drama, but that's about it.
That's kind of crazy. Zach, did you hear about that?
No, inform us.
So one of the things they did was they traded for Jonas Valanciunas, who like they gave up, I think it was Saric and maybe a pick for him or something, and he comes over and the first thing he says is, all right, guys, I'm going to go play in Greece. They're like, what? We just traded for you. The guy flew out to Greece in like the last couple weeks to go get his like physical so that he can play for a Greek team. I don't know why. He just got added to a roster where he gets to back up Nikola Jokic, who's going to go down as one of the greatest centers of all time. So very weird. But putting Valanciunas aside, what's incredibly impressive on their part is we just watched them go to 7 games against the eventual champions with Jokic basically single-handedly carrying them in that matchup, because Murray was not playing well, Aaron Gordon tore his hamstring, and Michael Porter Jr. had one shoulder, right? They traded Michael Porter Jr., who has not been the most consistent role player, who is a champion in his own right. And I got to give him credit for playing through that injury, whereas a lot of people would have sat. But they traded him for Cam Johnson, who was on that Suns team that made that finals run. He was part of the KD package. And Cam Johnson is an elite defender who is a really good three-point shooter. So they added a high-end 3-and-D guy. And then they went and signed Bruce Brown, who was on their championship team and adds an amazing amount of depth and actually plays defense along with it. And I think they added another guard to kind of play background. So the one main thing that they had last year was they had no depth whatsoever. I think they addressed that, and I think they upgraded their current positions. So it would not shock me if Nikola Jokic comes back and wins a championship next year. I'm not saying I'm picking them, but I definitely think they're going to be one of the top 3 to 4 teams in the West.
Interesting. Yeah, Valanciunas is hilarious because he's getting paid tons of money because that's the contract the Wizards signed him to, just because they had to sign someone. So they just like threw it to him. So he's like, it's a pretty big contract. I don't know why he's being so difficult, but
dude, I get it, man. Once you go to Greece, you never want to go back, dude. Athens was beautiful. All right, don't even get me started on the islands. I get it. I get it.
Not a bad place to hoop, I'm sure.
He probably just doesn't love smoking pot and skiing and hiking all the time. So he's like, I'd rather just go chill on a beach in Greece than be in Denver, I guess. So Ed, you said you wanted to talk draft. So what do you got for us?
I don't have much really on the draft. I was just saying I followed it closely. The Ace Bailey drama is going to be interesting with him on the Jazz now, like the questions on if he's going to report. Like, he's just got a wild attitude, and I'm not sure he wants to be there, but he did show up and looked horrendous in his summer league debut. Talk about an inefficient score, but looking at the early summer league, VJ Edgecombe for the Sixers, that looks like it's going to be a perfect fit with their roster, and he looked great in his debut. So pair him with Maxey and PG and Embiid. Like, obviously you need those guys to stay healthy. It's, the big question, but I think he's a perfect fit for their roster. So, I mean, Flag, obviously we don't need to talk about Flag going to the Mavs. I've had enough of that, but
all I gotta say is a 1.9% chance. It's just interesting how it works like that.
The rosters that Evan just laid out was really good, though. What's funny with the Sixers is like everyone's just tired of when they get mentioned, you just hear people in media shrug. They're like, the Sixers again. Because for the last decade, every year, one way or the other, the Philadelphia 76ers come up in the East. Oh, could this be their year to beat the, whatever the team is and whatever? And we hear it over and over and over again. And Embiid, when he's healthy, is easily a top 5 player in the NBA, if not top 3. There's no denying it. Problem is, he isn't healthy ever. The problem is he's turned into like a brat in the playoffs where he's like kicking people and shoving people and throwing hissy fits and getting upset. And sometimes I get it against media people who are awful, but at the same time, like in the playoffs to be doing that, it doesn't come off well. The other problem is Paul George looks like he did take a step back last year, and I'm concerned that he's not going to be an all-star level player anymore. And you have him to a max or on a max contract for several years. And the other problem is Tyrese Maxey is an absolute stud, but with the chaos of everything that's going on and with him getting hurt last year, I don't know how you're going to amplify him. So that's the Sixers situation. And I say all that to say that if somehow they manage to stay healthy next year, they could easily be the best team I shouldn't say easily, but they could definitely be the best team in the East. But the funny part is not a single person on this planet outside of maybe 76ers fans is picking them to win the East in a year where the East is the worst it's ever been. My team in the East that I want people to watch out for is the Orlando Magic. They are beautiful. I love Paolo Banchero. He just got his max rookie deal. They added Desmond Bane. They have pieces around them. They have depth. They have Franz Wagner. Like that team is fun. Like the East has some fun teams next year. But man, the Sixers piss me off. And on the flip side of that, and this one I'll keep brief because everyone knows how I feel about the Mavericks. I already felt like before they got Cooper Flag, once Kyrie gets healthy, because obviously he tore his ACL and he won't be back till January or February. Health is their biggest concern with AD and Kyrie. But in a healthy world, their starting roster is Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, PJ Washington, along with Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford, which is the best front court in the NBA when you take Davis and those two guys. And then for depth, they have just stacked amounts of depth, like a bunch of role players that could start on some teams, just coming off the bench playing 3 and D. And then you add Cooper Flag to that. So, like, if Kyrie can get healthy, the West, which is already brutally difficult, gets even more brutally difficult. So with all that being said, what do you guys think of the Lakers now that, like, they have Luka, they have LeBron, but they're in this insane West? LeBron opted into his $50 million option, but he decided that he's, like, they put out a quote about how he's, like, not going to just, like, give up the rest of his NBA career for the players to just, like, for the Lakers to just tank for the future or whatever it is. So what do you guys think of the Lakers situation? What do you want? What do you think LeBron should do? Like, what's your opinion on that?
It's gonna be tough, man. Like the power dynamic of West versus East is probably gonna be the biggest it's ever been this year, and it's been pretty big in the past. So, I think it's gonna be tough for them. I mean, they did get DeAndre Ayton, but what DeAndre Ayton are they getting? So they obviously needed the center was their biggest deficiency. But I mean, there's the chatter coming out now that him and LeBron and Reeves don't like playing with Luka. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's going to be too much drama there. I mean, LeBron has put himself in this situation where he's like, really pigeonholed himself to this organization by forcing them to draft his son and like all this kind of stuff that, like, I don't know, it'd be kind of a bad look if he leaves. Plus, obviously LA is home to him now. So I feel like he's just going to ride it out. But, they're building around Luka now, so.
Yeah, I agree too.
Yeah, I don't think he owes them anything, to be honest, though. He won him a championship, and then they traded AD overnight to Luka without asking, which is okay. You're allowed to do that. But if you do that, he's allowed to make whatever decision he wants. But the funny part of that is, in a weird way, it all ties together with the East because, Evan, the last thing we should talk about NBA is your now team, after moving on from Tom Thibodeau, go through a whole, let me ask every coach in the NBA if they want to interview, and then end up hiring Mike Brown. And they also added Jordan Clarkson and players for depth, which they, clearly needed. So how do you feel about the Knicks, who are the favorites to win the Eastern Conference next year?
They do look really good with some of these moves. I will, I'm going to admit to being a fair weather fan here to everyone on the podcast. I will continue to ride the wave of being both a Knicks and a Wizards fan until something breaks. I'm a sucker for a good rebuild, which is why, getting rid of the Wizards is a lot more difficult than you would think, choosing the winner over the, embarrassment of a franchise, but I'm a sucker for a rebuild. But yeah, I mean, the Knicks look way better on paper. I mean, Clarkson obviously is just a microwave scorer, so, it doesn't do much else for you, but coming off the bench, that'll be nice. And, Gio Yabusele from the Sixers came over from France and played really well, had some nice front court depth. So, and they didn't really need all that much. So I think obviously with Tibbs gone, they're going to play, they're going to actually let their starters get some rest. So, I think that in and of itself will help. So I think team looks good. Yeah, had some nice depth pieces, and they don't really need a whole lot else. And new coach, it doesn't really inspire me too much, but seems like a solid coach. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, honestly, man, I can't stand talking about the NBA right now because of the Charlotte Hornets, man. We got Knipple. You think he's going to do anything in the NBA? No way.
He's going to be good. He's all right. He's going to be just a solid player.
No, he's good. The problem is he went to a team where there's no such thing as being good. I feel worse for him than I do the Charlotte team. I'll give you guys one quick note to keep in mind before we move on. So if it happens later this offseason, you guys will be able to give me some kudos for being this tuned in, if you will. Mm-hmm. 2 notes. Mike Brown went to the NBA Finals one time. And who did he go to the NBA Finals with? LeBron James. The Houston Rockets have a front court of Steven Adams and a front court of Alfred Sengun, right? You already have 2 guys who can play the center position. And they went inside Clint Capella, which is a little bit weird when you think of it on paper because it's like, oh, maybe our guys get hurt. We have a 3rd guy. But it's not usually a signing you see where you give a veteran player a veteran contract when you have 2. You know who else might be available later this offseason? Giannis Antetokounmpo, because of the Bucks situation, waiving Damian Lillard, signing Miles Turner. That team does not look like it can compete, even if Giannis plays like the MVP that he is. You know who has the cap space to be able to trade for Giannis if they make one of those 3 to 4 player trades? It would be the Houston Rockets. And Alfred Sengun would be one of the main pieces in making that trade. So having Fred VanVleet's contract, having Alfred Sengun, and then having Capella to be the backup center if Sengun was to get traded could all result in them adding one more superstar. So I'm just putting some theories out there for if they ever come to fruition. Just throwing it out there. And now we can move off NBA. I'm loving NBA offseason.
What about the Spurs? Cool. Spurs still able to got the pieces to make. That's where he's going, baby. They're going to be an interesting team as well. And it's so funny that they trade for De'Aaron Fox and they get landed with the number 2 pick with Dylan Harper. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do because they drafted Castle as well. So
good call out.
It's going to be interesting to see how they handle all of that because I feel like Castle is the perfect off-ball primary kind of defender to go with whichever one you want playing point guard, but you kind of need those are both obviously starters. I think Dylan Harper is going to be great, so I think it's going to be interesting.
I think Castle, Harper, and a couple picks, and maybe one more bench guy would be what would be in the Giannis trade. But if you can get Giannis next to Wemby and De'Aaron Fox, who is probably the most slept-on player in the NBA right now because he's been hurt, but the guy made a playoff run just a year prior to that, that team would be you want to talk about discrepancy between West and East guys? Are you joking? You take the best player in the East by a country mile and put him in the West. The best player in the East is what? Jalen Brunson if Giannis Antetokounmpo gets traded because Jason Tatum's hurt? There's literally 10 guys in the West better than him. I'm not even trying to be offensive to Jalen Brunson. That's insane. Anyway, move on.
We got to get the Premier League relegation going, and then the West is just like the A tier, the normal Premier League, and then I don't even know what the other league is called, but that would be the East. But what else should we cover up? Some other small sports. I don't know. Are there any NFL or MLB storylines you guys want to talk about? I don't really think I have.
I can cover UFC, and then maybe we transition to Wimbledon or something. Yes. All right, cool. I'll get a quick 2-3 minute spiel on UFC. So UFC 317 occurred. June 28th. So just last week. It was an incredible fight. Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria had a lot to prove, coming up from 145 to 155. He did exactly what he said he was going to. Knocked Charles Oliveira out in the first round. Nasty combination, throwing that jab out. and then backing away, giving the illusion that Charles Oliveira could come in, start to strike, hits him back with a 1-2-3, puts him out on the 2, puts him out on the right hand, not even the hook behind it. So yeah, just an incredible fight by Ilia Topuria. He is now, I wonder who he's going to fight next, because you've got the whole thing with Dustin Poirier, and it's going to be interesting to see, he's finishing his career with Max, and Islam's got his fight in 170. Evan, where do you think Ilia Topuria goes from here?
So I think they want to do the Patty one, don't they? Because they did the face off in the octagon, because Patty was there right after it. So that, from a money making perspective, makes sense. I think like Sarukian, right, is probably like the guy that should get the next opportunity at him.
Yeah.
I forget what the backstory is there, but I think they might do Patty just for the fun of it. Dude, Topuria, I think that was the first time I've watched him. That dude's an assassin, bro. Because Oliveira was going to have a lot of different tools, like just given his experience in the ring, that could give him a lot of problems, and it just did not matter. Like, he just cut through anything he had to offer. And I was like, this guy's a problem, dude.
Yeah, people keep comparing Ilia Topuria to McGregor because of all the predictions, like the Mystic Mac predictions that Conor used to make, especially at 145. I've got to say one thing, though. Conor at 145 would starch Ilia Topuria, and I'll tell you why. Because Ilia has like God-given punching power. Like, this dude is knocking people out. He could he used to train with Jorge Masvidal, and Jorge was saying, like, well before, this is back when Ilia Topuria was fighting like the kid from Arlington, Virginia, whatever his name was, Ryan Howard or something like that. What was his name? He was in The Ultimate Fighter, but like Ilia was knocking these dudes out. And what was crazy is Jorge Masvidal was training with him as a 170-pounder, getting ready for his Kamaru Usman bouts. And Jorge Masvidal was like, this dude is punching like an absolute, like a welterweight, and he's fighting guys who are 145 pounds. So I'll give Ilia his flowers there, and he is undefeated in the UFC. He's undefeated as a fighter. But the reason why he wouldn't beat Conor McGregor is because Conor uses that karate style where he's able to keep distance, significant distance from his opponent and strike without getting hit, whereas Ilia moves like a boxer. So Ilia is going to try to close distance, and then once he's closed that range, he's going to light you up with ridiculous combinations. One of my favorite things that he said on the Joe Rogan podcast was that, I don't train for like a 1-2-3 combination and then back away and then, try to do your thing and then come back in for another combination. He throws a 1-2-3, slips. He throws an uppercut, then slips, and then back with a 2-3-2. Like, he trains in combinations of 9-10 punches, not just 2 or 3, and then jump back and catch your breath before you're ready for another exchange. He's a very interesting fighter, but he's too boxing oriented, and I think he's going to get clipped. Not by Patty, but let's just say that Ilia Topuria he's in a really good place because a lot of the previous lightweights have kind of come and gone past their prime. We're talking, he fought Max Holloway past his prime. Justin Gaethje has like one more fight. Chandler's nothing anymore. And then Dustin Poirier is on his last fight. So I don't know, Ev, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I just think when you have that kind of power, like I don't know if Conor has the chin to take on a couple of those punches, but that's a good point stylistically. But yeah, I mean, it's always the question, like, is he getting the competition at the back end of their career? But I don't know, man. That dude's a sniper, an absolute sniper. So, well, and he has a pretty complete game. Like, his striking is he's just going to box you, but like, he can grapple with you if you want to take him on the ground. Like, it's not going to be a strength with some of the more elite guys, but he didn't really need to show it against Charles. But yeah, that was a really good card. I mean, I forget what division it was, but that third fight, Brandon Royval,
Joshua Van,
and dude, Joshua Van, that was one of the best fights I've ever seen, dude. That thing was insane. Yeah. They were just throwing haymakers on their feet for the entire 15 minutes. I was like, dude, these guys rock. And then Pantoja in the co-main was he was up to snuff. So we got to get Ruthless Robbie Loza back on the pod to see who he thinks would win amongst Conor McGregor and Ilia.
Dude, that would be an interesting prompt, actually. Dude, so just tentatively, prefacing this. So Alexa's going to be on a girls' trip that third weekend in August, potentially come up to New York for the Duplessis Hamzat Chimaev card.
That card's good.
Let you know, Evan.
That card is good. Yeah, Sai, come on up as well.
You know.
You're welcome.
Oh, you guys
I love it.
Be there. That won't take a lot to convince me.
That's it. That's a very good card. I was going to talk about that. But I guess next up is Dustin and Max.
I don't care about that
it's
one.
an awful. I want to see that fight, but it's an awful card.
Fight.
Yeah, it's a good card. It's probably. I'll probably end up watching it. But anyways, anything else?
Wimbledon.
We're getting down to it here.
Today was crazy. Good time to bring up Wimbledon, gentlemen.
How do we want to tee it up? Because quarterfinals start tomorrow. And I mean, any big surprises you guys want to call it? There was a lot of upsets early. Like the early rounds were just a nightmare for, people just betting favorites. Lots of craziness. Almost had Sinner go down today. Shout out Dimitrov, who would have been the biggest win of his career, up 2-0. I thought he was going to get it too. I know you guys were on the, that Sinner. I mean, who knows? It was 50-50 the betting odds, but I thought he was going to be able to pull that out. So just the fact that he got hurt again was gutting.
No, to be clear, Ivan, I was on it before he went down 2-0. I kept thinking he was going to break a serve in that second set.
She did.
And to be clear, and he kind of did, but then he still lost it.
He gave it right back.
And I was like, if he breaks the serve, then there's no looking back, is the way I viewed it, because Sinner, even in the French Open and pretty much, I guess, most tournaments that he's played in recently, people can't beat a serve, right? Like, that's what makes him so damn unbeatable, because he's a beast with a serve, and then he's so, and like, from what I understand, he's so good at returning other people's first serves to give himself enough points to kind of maneuver. He's like I was talking to a friend the other day recently, and he's telling me about how, like, his name's Sam Cohen, one of my buddies. He lives in Boston now, works in MITRE. He's telling me about how Novak Djokovic is his favorite, right? Like, I know we all have different guys. Zach loves Federer. I grew up being a Nadal fan. Novak Djokovic is his favorite, and he's a huge Sinner guy. And it makes sense why, right? Because they're both like machines. And I think that's what he does well. Today, when he went down that second set, though, I did not have faith that he was going to win this. And that's why I'm so sad for Dimitrov, because I was like, the guy had it. And to go out on an injury when you're down 2-0, if Sinner ends up winning this Wimbledon, I'm actually going to be like, dude, you were so lucky, because there was no guarantee he was going to come back and win 3 straight sets to go take this. So that was actually such a bummer. It would have been so fun to watch that upset.
And you know who I'm also sad for? Ben Shelton, who's playing some really, really good tennis this tournament and would have had a really nice path to potentially a semifinal. With Taylor Fritz is probably favored tomorrow to make a semifinal as well, man. U.S. tennis could have had a nice lane here if it weren't for the injury there. But oh well.
That's my big headline for Wimbledon is the American resurgence. The fact that Taylor Fritz and Ben Shelton, shout out Ben Shelton, man. Ben Shelton is winning matches that Frances Tiafoe can't. They're trying to market Frances Tiafoe as being like the American tennis player. He's such a lovable guy too. Frances Tiafoe is awesome. But he keeps losing like in the second or the third round. And it's like, dude, you've got to break that barrier. And Ben Shelton is doing that. And he's also like 2-3 years younger. Shout out Ben Shelton. He's getting more powerful by the day. Like, his forehand is so crisp. Just seeing him like as a lefty in tennis, he gives me like the Nadal vibes. Not like stylistically, because Nadal just had the finesse, but like Ben Shelton's like the Michael Vick of like tennis from a like athleticism perspective. Like you know how like Michael Vick would flick the wrist and the ball would go 60 yards? Ben Shelton is similar, where he doesn't really hit the ball hard, but he's just steaming these like rocket forehands. So Ben Shelton, super fun to watch. Taylor Fritz is hilarious. Like, he has this California chill bro attitude, and he doesn't do anything like remarkable, but he just keeps winning. Like, I just don't understand, but I'm excited to watch him at 8:00 tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I've been pretty impressed by him. He a lot of my anger with Taylor Fritz was mostly because of betting. He would always just screw me over. I'd see his ranking and be like, it's the top American tennis player, and he would always like just find a way to screw me. But because he just won the title at Eastbourne on Saturday, and then he rolled it right back into either a Monday, Tuesday start at Wimbledon, and then he draws like a couple of just serve bots like that French guy. I don't even know his name. That it's just like, and you know, he had to go to 5 sets, I think, there. And then Diallo, who's a really nice Canadian player, again, kind of a serve bot, pushed him really hard, had to go 5 sets again. I was like, I don't know how Taylor Fritz is gonna have the energy for this. And then he gets a retirement from, I forget who he faced. So that helps him get off his legs a little bit. And now he's got a decent matchup tomorrow, man. I've been impressed with him, and I like his vibe. So I'm becoming a Taylor Fritz fan. I hope he makes the semis and gives, I forget who, is he on the Alcaraz side, I guess, of the draw? Yeah. I forget who we would have in the semis, but you know.
I want to say this, though, okay? Like, love that we have our Americans at least thriving in this tournament so far. And I think I may have mentioned this in a prior podcast, but it's been long enough that I'm not sure. Zach, I don't pretend to be anywhere near a tennis, expert the way that you are. I mean, you've been to Wimbledon, you paid attention. I obviously watched more growing up, and then now more recently I've been getting into it. But as a sports fan, my take is, and I know I mentioned that, I actually remember mentioning this before. My concern, and they're having a great tournament, so I don't want to take this away from them. I think we're very good at producing high level, like tier 2 players. My thing is, until they go beat an Alcaraz or go beat a Sinner and make a statement and say, we're going to, like, the best I can say is, oh man, you were awesome. You were so fun to watch for the first couple rounds of the tournament. And I'm not saying that isn't incredibly impressive, because they're still top 10 players if they do that in the world, which is amazing. My issue is, can we please get a guy to go win the damn tournament? Like there's 2 guys you have to beat. Like, I'm not saying it should be easy, but this feels like what Roddick was like with Ben Shelton reminds me of Roddick. And I don't know if that's a great comp, but I think of 2 guys who serve like insanely well and have this powerhouse type style with it, but they can't beat. Like, Roddick could never get past Federer or Nadal or Djokovic when he came up. And it feels the same way with Shelton right now, but he's young. So I'm gonna cool my horses. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, and hopefully he does at this tournament, especially if Sinner plays the way he's playing. Like, if he gets that matchup, maybe he gets the win. I don't know what side he's on right now, but I just want to see someone beat Alcaraz and Sinner, because right now I don't think I believe anyone's going to win a tournament outside of those 2, except for maybe Djokovic if he goes can somehow keep his conditioning up. Like, that's basically the only 3 guys in current tennis that I believe are going to win these majors. Like, that's the issue that I have.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Alcaraz looks a little shaky is a stretch, but like for him, he doesn't look as dominant as he usually does. Now, Sinner did before today. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. The Shelton Sinner match will be fun to watch. Taylor Fritz, I don't think he doesn't really have a shot at the Wimbledon this year. He could win like a U.S. Open, I think, because he made the U.S. Open final last year, so like he could maybe win that one. And then I think Shelton eventually maybe has like the upside to be able to do it, whereas Fritz is like maybe more of a steady player. But yeah, I think it's the main dogs. The Brits have been pretty disappointing. That Jack Draper, man, going out pretty early, that was a huge disappointment for the homestanding Brits, because he's like, I feel like they're Taylor Fritz, there. But Cam Norrie could be interesting with Alcaraz tomorrow. You get the soft hitting lefty.
Straight sets.
I think he could take a set. Give me Alcaraz at 4. I'll give Cam Norrie a set.
My thing with Alcaraz, go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
Cam Norrie used to be a top 10 player, and he slipped out, and he's like trying to make this stupid resurgence. And the problem is he got a bad draw with Alcaraz because Wimbledon is the grass court, so speedy players prevail, and Carlos Alcaraz hits like 100 miles per hour. That dude has no off button. That was exactly why Federer was so successful at Wimbledon, whereas Nadal owned the French Open and really only lost 4 times. He's like, his record, Nadal's record, French Open, he's like 100 wins and 4 losses. It's insane. And then Djokovic obviously dominating the hard court. So for me, Taylor Fritz, he has no chance, and because he hits like these soft balls, and Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz hit like these missiles so consistently. But Sai brings up a really good point, because Taylor Fritz has 0 Grand Slams. This is probably his best chance to do that this year. And Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz combined between their 2 young careers already have 8. So who is going to be able to take these big, formidable figures down?
I think the other thing I'll say is Alcaraz, I don't know what it is, and especially more recently when I've watched him in rounds, I feel like the matches I tune into, he never makes it easy for himself. But it almost feels like he enjoys being in those environments. Obviously he's not doing it on purpose, but like the moment he's down or the moment like it feels like the other guy could capture momentum, he starts going on these like stupid runs where you're like, it's like prime Nadal, like is the way he feels to me. And I say Nadal because Nadal always felt like this like incredibly like fun, like aggressive, like, you know, kind of spontaneous, go with the flow type player rather than, you know, I feel like Federer and Djokovic, especially Djokovic, but Federer, he had that aggressiveness, but he always felt like he was playing a very smart game all the time, which is why he was so damn hard to beat. But that's what I love about Alcaraz. He's got all like a little bit of everybody in him, but he's just having fun, man. And he's so fun to watch. Like that's the thing. Like, he's just fun to watch.
So it's Fritz on the Alcaraz side if they both get through, and then it would be Sinner and Djokovic if they both get through. So
Fritz is so cooked, dude. Fritz is cooked.
what are the odds tomorrow? He's minus 330 tomorrow, so that's a decent little.
Oh, you know, he'll win that. Yeah. But Alcaraz,
No, I know with Alcaraz.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
What do you guys think Djokovic has a shot this tournament?
No way.
Not at all.
I mean,
no.
My issue I would say over Sinner how he looked today, but the problem is I feel like that was Sinner's bad day of the whole tournament.
Yeah.
And that was the shot to get him out. And then now, not saying he's going to win the whole thing. Obviously, as he gets to Alcaraz at the end, you know, he has trouble beating him. But I think it's going to be tough for Djokovic.
His elbow situation, I don't know. Like, I mean, it only came up today, so maybe it was like a small thing. But I even saw a swing he made earlier where I was like, damn, that looked a little awkward. And then afterwards, he went to go get his elbow checked out. So hopefully it's not anything serious. The thing with Djokovic, though, is like if it's like a 3-setter, I feel like he's got a shot to beat anybody still. But the conditioning, man, that's the issue. It's like, damn, like I'm not even a big Djokovic fan. I was always like Nadal's better type guy. And I think I've come around in the sense of who's better. But I don't know. It's just impressive to see a guy at his age. It's like LeBron. Like you watch a guy who you would expect to have, you know, flamed out a long time ago, still making like semifinals and finals consistently. It's insane. Like, I don't know. It's impressive.
That's a good comparison. It's a really good comparison. I'm excited to see how this goes down. I mean, dude, Taylor Fritz has been playing well though. I mean,
he got a little rest.
I hate to knock him. It was hilarious last year in Wimbledon when we were there, when Alex and I were there. He told one of the players on the day that we were there, we unfortunately were not watching him. We were watching the Djokovic match. It was going on at the same time. But he told his opponent after he beat him to have a nice flight home. He's kind of he's a savage, dude.
I've been listening to some of his interviews. He does, like you kind of said earlier, have an interesting personality because like he comes off as the California cool guy, but he is very cocky and like we'll talk a lot of smack and like, you know, he's an interesting guy. I like him.
Don't turn into Kyrgios. You got to win something if you're going to talk smack, bro. And then
do not compare him to Nick Kyrgios. Come on, Taylor Fritz is way better than him. Come on.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Nick Kyrgios is so much better than Taylor Fritz.
I'm not saying on just talent, but like, come on, Nick Kyrgios never even got close to his ceiling. Come on.
No. The only reason I say it is Kyrgios talked a lot of trash, but the funny part about him, you could see that his ceiling was insane. He just didn't give a shit, and that's a problem. But I'm just saying, like, I can't stand when guys, especially in individual sports, are like, hey, have a nice flight home, to then go get like 3-setted by like a stud like the next round. That's the thing that bothers me. Like if Sinner or Alcaraz said that, I'd be like, all right, props to you guys because you're gonna go win a Grand Slam. Like Fritz, go win something, bro. Like you make us look bad as Americans. You're gonna talk shit and then immediately get trounced by the good players. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
dude, I love this point so much. I completely agree with Sai here. I do.
I'm out on saying that Taylor Fritz is like that though.
Well, okay, but
like Kyrgios was disrespectful to the game though. Like Taylor Fritz isn't on that level. Like,
that was disrespectful. I definitely took it. I'm making very like bold comparisons. That was not a good one. But to be clear, I think Zach was onto something when he was talking about talent. I think Kyrgios, talent-wise, was insane. But let's not spend too much time on him.
Dude, Nick Kyrgios and Taylor Fritz head-to-head, Nick Kyrgios would win more matches. Dude, Nick Kyrgios would absolutely take at least a set against Jannik Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz any day of the week. He would probably lose 3-1, but he would take a set. I can't say the same for Taylor Fritz. I think he would get beaten in straight sets.
For like an hour in between that set and the next one to then get promptly destroyed. But that's the sad part about him because he clearly had the potential to be like very good, but you could just tell that like he peaked and then he was just like, I'm not going anywhere after this. But whatever. I do want to make one last call out with Wimbledon though. That Ben Shelton interview, which I'm sure you both saw, where he was like, yo, can you guys extend my sister's leave by a week because she's my good luck charm, was awesome. That was such a hilarious interview.
Yeah, Ben's awesome. Shout out
he's good.
Trinity Rodman, too, is his girlfriend. I didn't realize that, but U.S. women's national team, Dennis Rodman's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
I guess so.
Well,
wow.
Sneaking it over to women's, I got a futures bet for you. Iga Swiatek to win Wimbledon plus 400 over Sabalenka. Betting against Sabalenka is probably never a good idea because she is an absolute animal, but Iga looks playing some really good tennis right now. Usually not a grass court player, better on clay, but she is playing great right now, and she is, plus 400.
Yeah, I don't know. Iga impressed me maybe 2-3 years ago. She's just she is playing really well right now, but let's not forget that Arna is dominating everybody and also beat Iga in the semifinals, destroyed Iga. It wasn't even close, but it was on clay, Evan. It was in the French Open.
Yeah, Sabalenka is a beast. Yeah, betting against her is never.
I also feel like for the first time in a while, Sabalenka has a chip on her shoulder, especially after those comments she made. Like, I feel like she needs to go out there and prove herself. So I feel like that is even more like motivation for her to dominate.
That'd be a great final to watch if it happens.
I like her game, so I hope she is a bit more respectful after this one. I hope
that was out of character for her from what I think she was was so confident she was going to win. And it's one of those things when you feel so good about where your game is at. And you just probably expected it almost too much. And then without, there's so much work still to do. And it just kind of unraveled on her. But
tennis is in such a good place though, man.
That's all I gotta
say. It is.
It's a lot of fun.
It is. Tennis is in a great place.
In a long time that I've enjoyed watching it again. The last time I enjoyed it was when the big three were all in their prime. So it's just fun to see it back in a place where you got these players. It's fun, man.
Yeah. Honorable mention, shout out to the U.S. men's national team soccer. Some bright spots from the CONCACAF Gold Cup. They lost in the final to Mexico last night, but there were some bright spots going to the World Cup next year. That's about all I got, but they played pretty well this tournament without their usual crew.
It's a good thing they made it without Polsek. I'll give them that, but at the same time, you better make the finals. It's who are you playing, bro? And then the other thing is they promptly, not only did I'm sorry, it makes it seem like I hate the U.S. because I'm just completely destroying the U.S. in every sport. But I got to be critical of our own because it's just how I am. Just like I'm critical of ourselves when we go lose at, basketball at Evans Gym in New York. I'm going to be critical. They went to the finals, and against Mexico, it was a 2-1 game, so it looked close on paper. But if you look at every metric, Mexico dominated, shots on goal, corners, every big thing that put them in potential. Mexico could have won that game 5-1, right? And it just happened to be 2-1 because they didn't convert on a few. Now, we didn't have Pulisic. I understand that, but I don't think everyone's rolling out the best roster ever.
Mexico was pretty full, and we have a lot of guys out, as I understand. Could I give you the names? Not really, other than Pulisic, but it was a pretty
To be clear, we're all saying this as very, very low knowledge soccer fans. It's not, we're not giving great analysis here, but
baby steps. Baby steps.
I just want to make it clear we better be making the final. Otherwise, that's embarrassing.
Well, but at least it's nice to see them take care of business. Usually, I would expect them to get knocked off by Trinidad and Tobago. That's what I'm like. I'm just happy to see them take care of business and give us something to watch on a Sunday night, right? But
we're getting dominated by a country that's the size of Rhode Island.
Is Tobago even in the CONCACAF?
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
I think weren't they the ones that knocked us out of the World Cup qualifier do you remember that? It was pouring rain, sloppy conditions, and we had to win this match to make the World Cup, and we lost to Trinidad and Tobago. Wasn't that
I guess when you say it that way, the bar is low because I remember
bar's very low.
A few World Cups ago, we were in the round of 32 playing Belgium with Eden Hazard and Kaká and holding our own. That was such a good era that I feel like since then it's been so bad. So that's fair, I guess.
Hey, we could be Canada. Canada talked a lot of smack, as I understand, that they were like the new, top dog in the CONCACAF, even though they haven't won anything ever. And they got bounced by Honduras in penalties, like in the semifinal. So it could be worse. Could be worse.
Bro,
It could be Canada.
Team that spends 99% of their time playing hockey in a grass field game. Is that something to brag about, bro? Like, what are we winning?
Hey,
like,
we play 4 other sports ahead of soccer, though.
We're doing Dunkin' Donuts versus Tim Hortons over here, bro. Like, come on. Like, nobody cares. I guess I care in the sense of Canadian beef, but like, let's make the World Cup, bro. Like, let's get out of the group stage. Like, let's.
See, that's the beauty side. We get an automatic invitation because we're hosting. It's perfect.
Yeah, which is great, but like, let's do something in the group stage.
Well, hopefully,
be in the group stage, get our asses kicked, and be like, "Woo, we were in the group stage." Like, that's not the bar. I'm sorry.
Hopefully, they give us a good draw.
This brings me back to a potential prompt maybe later this summer of assembling the best U.S. soccer team for all athletes if no other sports existed except for soccer.
I like that.
Yeah, keep that in mind, gents. Russell Westbrook starting left back.
I kind of like that. He might be better at soccer than his NBA career ended up being. I'm hating. Westbrook's a star. That's disrespectful. Never mind. He's a good guy too.
While we're talking hockey, Zach, the Canes this year, man. This is the year coming up. They've been the biggest players in free agency with tons of cap space and draft picks. Mitch Marner was the top free agent on the market. He went to Vegas, but Nikolaj Ehlers is now a Cane. He was the second biggest free agent on the market and actually chose, like we were talking about the Wizards, no one chooses to go play there. That's a Canes issue as well, and they convinced him to go. And Keandre Miller from the Rangers, they're going to be good next year. So this could be our year for a championship in North Carolina. Yeah, those. Well,
so they run into Florida.
Florida's losing some guys, but yeah, they're a wagon. They're a wagon, but
yeah,
I'm out of topics. And we're out of time.
I am too, unless maybe not today, but another time. Get a little MLB going again, Ev. It's been a while.
Yeah, for sure. We're getting to deadline territory, and there's been some interesting shakeups in the division. Oh boy, yeah, you guys are. We'll get into it next week. You'll get healthy. The New York teams are a mess.
Except finally, we've seen some positive results. So
more so the Yankees.
Yeah. Yo, hey, we won the Subway Series, so I'm happy.
All right. Anyway. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Leave us your thoughts on the new little prompt game. We're planning on doing that every week. Had a lot of fun with it. So, and if you want to come on the pod, obviously it's a quieter time of sports. So if you want to come on, you got anything you want to talk about, let us know. I'm sure we'll be open-minded to it. So, any last words, gentlemen?
What was his name? Joe Jenkins or something?
Yeah. So we're tagging Sam Jenkins.
We're tagging Sam Jenkins.
And he is going to give us a rundown on how Alabama State football is looking this season. So, sweet. Thanks again. That was Mondays Down South.